Okay, I'm here with Stephen Twining at the Fitchburg Public Library. We were here for the Nikki Tsongas event, but I understand, Mr. Twining, you have a very interesting sideline. You're very involved in Civil War history, is that correct?
That's correct.
Can you tell me a little bit about the group that you're involved in?
Well, I belong to the Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War, which is a national organization whose mission statement is to preserve the memory of those that served and saved the Union. And we're not reenactors. I mean, some of us do reenact, but that's not what we do, or competitively shoot. What we do is we have some major projects like our Graves Registration Project, where we go into cemeteries and search for Civil War veterans' graves, write down their location, photograph the stones, put it together with their military history, and put it on our website for people who are interested in finding perhaps relatives that served in the Union. And all that data is there.
Now, how long have you been doing this?
Almost 13 years.
Now, 13 years, ever since Ken Burns' documentary, there's been a great new interest in the Civil War. In terms of just general interest, we had the film Lincoln recently. We even had the rather odd, well, actually the Lincoln Vampire Slayer film, which was a parody of an old comic book store thing.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah. Have you noticed a great interest in the Civil War lately that you did not notice before?
Well, what's happening now is, since we're in the sesquicentennial years, my group has what they call special events, and for example, we did the Clara Barton event here in Fitchburg, where we moved the stone commemorating Clara Barton's relationship with Fitchburg, and we created the Clara Barton Military Nurses Monument, where you can buy commemorative bricks to honor military nurses, not just Civil War, but all military nurses. These events are going on all over the country. There is a resurgence in interest because of the sesquicentennial.
Now, if there was one misconception about the Civil War that people have, that you see a lot, what would be the biggest misconception people have about the war itself?
Well, it depends what side you're talking about. The Southerners would say that it was about slavery, although several of the states, when they wrote their documents on secession, they mentioned they wanted to keep slavery. The other one was that it was set out to free the slaves. But the main reason for Lincoln to issue his Emancipation Proclamation is they were running out of soldiers, and they wanted to be able to get the African Americans to join the Union and fight on our side.
In fact, it's a little-known fact that Pat Claiborne, one of the Confederate generals, had written a letter advising the South to free slaves and conscript them, and it actually retarded his career a bit because of it.
Yeah, and there were African Americans that fought for the South, as well as American Indians. And 50,000 Canadians came down and served for the Union.
Now that I did not know.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, my organization is working on a monument for those soldiers that came from Canada.
Now, do you ever do any events with the Sons of Confederate Veterans as well? Or?
At our national convention, we usually have the president. There were a couple of years that we didn't, because David Duke was running for the presidency of the Sons of Confederate Veterans, and you probably know the story about David Duke.
You don't need to.
Last I knew, he was in jail.
That I don't know, but I imagine you wouldn't be all that anxious to have Mr. Duke around.
No.
All right, well, if people want to find out more about this, where would they go?
We have a website. It's the initials of the organization, suvcw.org, and our database is suvcwdb for database.org, where you can go and do a search. You can put in a name, you can put in a regiment, you can put in a cemetery, and it will list all the soldiers that have been registered in those locations.
All right, well, thank you very much for your time. I hope you had a decent meeting with the congressperson, but I think this is much more interesting.
Just as a matter of fact, there were over 600 soldiers that enlisted in Fitchburg.
600. That's something worth knowing. And
they lost about 10%.
That's fairly low, isn't it?
Well, in today's terms, that's extremely high.
Well, for Civil War terms, that's kind of low.
Well, I probably have my numbers wrong because there's about 124 names on the monument across the street. Those that died that were from Fitchburg.
And again, another thing about, I know I'm extending the interview here, but people don't realize that a lot more people were killed by disease.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Because I've read that monument, and the list of killed by disease is very large. Well, again, thank you very much for your time, and I'm sure we'll be having some people check out your site and your events.
Okay, I hope so.